segunda parte del video aquí en el Tampa Bay, aquí en el mar para que lo vean. Disfrútenlo.
These 400 that used to be the Tampa Tribune newspaper building. We all know newspapers have had a hard time about it. So they took down the old newspaper building and just lots more of these messages left here from the rowing teams that have come down to race and train over the years. And on our right, we have this wonderful asset along the river. This is our Tampa River Walk. It pretty much starts at the Works Park, 2.6 miles.
Este es el
It really
Riverwalk.
is wonderful. It's got these nice little
Ahí la
parks
gente se
along
pone a
the way,
caminar.
architectural features to protect you from the sun and the rain. It's been built out beyond the existing buildings so you get a first-hand look at the river. There are fun fact plaques embedded into the walkway, statues of people that have done great things for the city over the years. And underneath the walkway right now, you might see these pods hanging down. These are architectural lights that turn on in the evening that illuminate the river in all these wonderful, splendid colors. So in the evening, the river's illuminated, the walkway and the bridges by architectural lights, and all those colored architectural lights mixed with the city lights. So it's pretty dramatic down here in the evening as all these lights click on. Now every river has its gems, and one of our diamonds is coming up on the left, and we'll talk about it after we pass underneath this next bridge.
La gente que anda caminando haciendo ejercicio. River Rock. Caminando, haciendo ejercicio.
So to our left, we have this incredible piece of property. This started out as the Tampa Bay Hotel in 1890. The rich and famous can spend their whole winter in this incredible 150-acre, 5-star resort. He built at a cost of $3 million, opening in 1891, the Tampa Bay Hotel. Now, it really was an incredible place. Again, many of the rich and famous in America would come down here and stay for the winter. The main building over there is a quarter of a mile long and sits on 6 acres. There were 511 rooms and suites. It had the first elevator in Florida, the first electric lights in Tampa. In fact, Thomas Edison came up and turned on the lights to make sure everything worked right. We had steam heat, private bathrooms, full-size tubs. Mr. and Mrs. Plant wanted to make sure they had all the best and fine furnishings. They went over to Europe. They came back with 41 train cars of fine furnishings to put into the hotel upon its opening in 1891 at a cost of $3 million. And again, it was just an incredible place. And then, in 1898, the United States government is getting ready to fight the Spanish-American War over in Cuba. The U.S. military took over the hotel, turned it into a military headquarters/hotel, and they sent 30,000 U.S. troops to Tampa for the summer of 1898. And along with those troops came Lieutenant Colonel Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders. Actually, Mrs. Roosevelt tagged along with Teddy Roosevelt, and they had a room up at the then military headquarters/hotel. The Rough Riders, of course, they roughed it out on the front lawn. But it was a really big deal for Tampa, as they had 30,000 troops in town for the summer of 1898. At the end of the summer, the troops got put on ships, and in 1899, Henry Plant dies. Now, the family doesn't want to keep the hotel any longer. They want to sell it, so they end up selling it to the city of Tampa for $125,000 after just building it for $3 million several years earlier. Well, Tampa got a great deal and continued to operate it like a great hotel. In fact, Babe Ruth signed his first baseball contract in the grand dining room and hit the furthest baseball home run of his career on the baseball field that was on the property. Winston Churchill stayed here. It was the home of the first Florida State Fair. On and on, it was just an incredible place. But then the Depression hit. You just couldn't run a 511 room and suite hotel like this during the Depression. So in 1932, they closed their doors as a hotel. The city was convinced, however, after that that they should reopen it as the University of Tampa. So in 1933, it reopened as the University of Tampa. The city gave the university a 99-year lease at just $1 a year. And one of the few provisions being they had to maintain one wing of the primary building as the Henry B. Plant Museum. So you could go to that museum tomorrow, you could go through it and see some of the original furnishings, the original lighting, and of course all those great stories when it was an incredible hotel. So it started out in 1891 as the Tampa Bay Hotel, now the University of Tampa, a U.S. national landmark on the west side of the Hillsborough River. Just gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? The Centro for the Performing Arts. This is the largest performing arts center in the southeastern United States. They've welcomed more than 10 million guests. They have 5 distinct theaters, just a terrific place to watch everything from a Broadway show to a soul comedian in one of their theaters. Now they have beautiful fountains. A lot of times in the evening they have free live outdoor entertainment. There's food and drink vendors. So the whole place is right along the Riverwalk. It's a really neat place to kind of just sit and watch the world go by or catch a show.
De comida. Muy bonito para acá.
So you gotta help me out with this next item. Over here on the right, on the shore, you'll see a platform set up with a brown woodish object set on top of it. And that's actually one of the largest harps in the world, the fin harp. And the strings normally extend more than 200 feet up to attach to the upper edge of the Strata Center edge of the rooftop up there. You can see maybe the individual anchor points for the strings up on the edge of that roof. Now they just took the strings down. They're getting ready to put the new strings in. They replace them every year. But normally the strings run more than 200 feet up to attach to the upper edge of the building. One of the largest harps in the world, the fin harp. It's got its name and its design from the dorsal fin of a dolphin that the designer saw swimming in front of the Strata Center one morning. So he designed the harp off the dorsal fin of a dolphin. Now normally on Sunday afternoons, the Strata Center will have professional harpists out here playing those 200-foot long strings, and it really is incredible. So again, one of the largest harps in the world, normally with 200-foot long strings. We have our Tampa River Center. It's a really interesting dual-purpose building. The lower floor is a boathouse. That's where they store all these rowing shells. So when I normally come down the river in the morning, there's anywhere between 10 and 15 teams racing up and down the river. They have these specially designed docks to make it easier to get onto the boats and off. So it's just a beehive of activity. The lower floor has a boathouse, and then the upper floor is this incredible party central station. So for weddings and anniversaries and birthdays and special occasions, the upper deck is this great banquet hall party house, and the lower floor is a boathouse.
De Tampa, lo estamos pasando.
special. They have 2 dog parks, and if you look to the right now through the trees, you might see a big yellow bucket, which is part of a free splash zone water park. And every couple minutes, that big yellow bucket over there, just right now, it's tipping over on top of all the little kids that are standing underneath it. They all scream bloody hell, they're all running away, and of course they'll be standing back underneath it again in a couple minutes as it's ready to fill up and then tip over again. So they've got that free splash zone water park over there, very cool. Now this is the beginning or the end of the Riverwalk. If we got off here, we could walk 2.6 miles back to the History Center where I picked you up at. So there's a Riverwalk all the way along this waterway back to the History Center again. Now they've got these nice little docks here. And then if you look to the right, you'll see yellow umbrellas around a brick building over to our right. That's the original Waterworks building, today's Eulali's restaurant. And on the far right-hand corner, on the outside of that building, is the original Eulalie Spring, which has pretty much been brought back to its natural state. And during cold winter nights, you can find manatees snuggled up in that spring head as they like to take advantage of the warmer spring water. Of course, you've got the break in the seawall to our right. That's the outflow for the 2,000 gallons per minute. Now in front of us, we have the Tampa Armature Works building, and this is the old trolley barn in Tampa. And they started running streetcars in Tampa in 1892. They stopped in 1946. Everybody came back from World War II, bought an automobile, so put the streetcar business out of business. Now this building was in dire shape a couple years ago, really horrible shape, but because of the success of the neighborhood, it's now been saved. It has 3 really great sit-down restaurants, a rooftop bar, a public market, which is like a food court on steroids. Stone's Throw over here is an outdoor oyster bar. They have stand-up board and kayak rentals. There are docks further upriver, so you can tie up your boat and come in for a nice lunch or dinner. So to the right, we have the original Armature Works building, and you can see all the numbers above the bays. That's where they would bring the old streetcars in when they ran the streetcars in Tampa. Now, if we were able to continue further upriver, we'd eventually come to a dam, and that's where Tampa draws its drinking water from, a dam further upriver. Now, as we swing around here, we've got Eulalie's restaurant on the left, and it's got its name from the Eulalie Spring. And the Eulalie Spring got its name from a Native American princess that was living in this area in the 1500s when the Spanish were exploring. And as I said, the Spanish weren't being very nice to the Native Americans. Well, Eulalie's father, the chief, got 3 Spanish sailors. And he's already executed 2. He's getting ready to put to death the 3rd, a 17-year-old Spanish sailor from Cuba, when somehow his daughter, Eulalie, the Native American princess, snuck in, stole him away, got the sailor back to his ship, where he credited his entire survival to all of her efforts.
Hasta la high
So
school está
whenever
a un
the
lado
story came
del
back
mar.
about how the Native American
Wow.
princess Eulalie had saved the 17-year-old Spanish sailor, they named the spring after her. So that's how we got the name of the spring, from the Native American princess Eulalie. Now, this has always been an interesting neighborhood. Ray Charles made his first recording in this neighborhood, and the dance craze The Twist originated in this neighborhood. And kind of going along with it all, but maybe not, Billy Graham had his first ministry in this neighborhood. So you had Ray Charles, The Twist, and Billy Graham all celebrating this neighborhood over time. Now, if any of you have driven around Tampa, you may have driven on 275, which seems like a very chaotic roadway at its best. Well, right now we're about ready to go underneath 8 lanes 275 during rush hour traffic on a Friday evening, and I assure you it is much nicer down here on the river right now than up on that roadway above.
Ahí está el freeway.
park's been around for generations, but people stopped coming to it. All the apparatuses got old, there wasn't any parking. And then the city got a $15 million settlement from the BP oil spill disaster out in the Gulf of Mexico. So they said, hey, let's go ahead and fix up this 23-acre park. Well, $35.5 million later, we now have the new Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park. Now, it really is nice. It's got these nice docks, 2 dog parks, lots of parking, basketball courts, a multi-sports field for soccer and football, and then it continues over on the other side of this bridge. So on this side we have the new Riverfront Center, and then there's a really nice green lawn up there. I come down some mornings and there will be 100 people doing yoga up there. And if you look up to the right now on top of the hill, you might see a big orange bucket, which is part of a free splash zone water park for the kids on that side of the river. There's tennis courts,
Tampa River Center,
courts, and lots of places to get together for. Oh, just tipped over right now. Up on top of that hill, you can see that water just cascading down over that from that big orange bucket. So they got all kinds of great places to have picnics and banquets and little gatherings here. It also has some interesting artwork. Coming up on the right, this green sculpture is called The Form of Wander. It's an abstract tree canopy from the artist. So they light it all up at night. It's all green. So that's The Form of Wander, an abstract tree canopy from the artist. Now looking down the river, you might see those minarets, those towers from the original Tampa Bay Hotel. And according to the experts, that's the finest example of Moorish revival architecture in the United States today, those towers and the accompanying architecture. Now we also have 2 bridges in front of us. The railroad bridge, which is up in the air right now, is a working railroad bridge. That was built in 1915.
Qué bonito barquito, miren.
Thank you very much. Happy Friday.
So the automobile bridge was built in 1926. These are both the Cass Street bridges, named after General Cass, who was Secretary of War for President Andrew Jackson, and he had a lot to do with the placement of Fort Brooke, where the convention center is today. So coming up on our left, we have this rectangular silver-colored building. This is the Tampa Museum of Art, built by the architect to be an electronic toolbox floating upon a glass pedestal with a billboard to the future. Now the architect saw the artwork as jewels, and he wanted to put the jewels into an electronic toolbox. Now he knew he was building this art museum along a river that could flood, and he didn't want any of the exhibits to be damaged. So he put the electronic toolbox, where the exhibits would be, up on top of a glass pedestal. So there are no exhibits on the ground floor. There's a nice Riverwalk cafe, a museum store, but all the exhibits are above in the electronic toolbox. Now as we go by, you'll see 2 boxes. The box that's closest to this. So that's the light show that you get, which is the billboard to the future. And then to the right of the art museum is the Children's Museum. Then we have a nice, really nice park to our left, the 36 Waterfront Park, which is really the park in the heart of Tampa. And they have some of the best music festivals and art shows there. In the winter, they put an outdoor ice skating rink up there. And then looking up into your left right now, we've got this tall cylindrical building with the red Sykes name up at the top. That's the Rivergate building. It's one of the tallest limestone buildings in the world, built by the architect to resemble a lighthouse of prosperity set upon our shore. And there's actually spotlights installed into the rooftop that turn on at night that shine up into the sky That's our beer can building over there on the left.